Okay, thank you all for joining us today. We are actually in Erev Pesach, Erev Bdikat Chametz here in Eretz Yisrael. Mamash ot, very soon. I figured I'll try to sneak in some learning with you guys on the HAGADDAH, also for myself. A little selfish motivation here, but I know you all would love some inspiration, so thank you for joining. We have a weekly tefillah class that some of the ladies here are part of, and looking forward, if you would like to join us in the future, we're going to be continuing with our tefillah class. We're doing the Amidah, and we're also going to be starting a new series, Bezrat Hashem, on Emunah and Bitachon. Stay tuned for that. Maybe some other things, good things in store. Right now, I want to start with a tefillah that we say every single day with my Lev Ha'am group, which is a group that we promote, an initiative that started that we promote davening together for the Geula. What better time than right now to daven together for the Geula in the month of Nisan, in the day that we are going to be becoming a nation. We were redeemed and we became a nation, Am Yisrael, Am Segula. Let us daven for the Geula Shlema, the Geula Klalit, and the Geula Pratit, our individual Geula and our public Geula, of course. And we're going to be talking about that in a minute, what that means. Let's daven together for that, and we're going to say Mizmor Todah together, thanking Hashem that we know that the Yeshua is coming. And let Hashem reveal to us Malchut Shamayim. Everyone should know that Hashem Hu Elokim should reveal to us Malchut Bet David, the Bet HaMikdash should be, the Mashiach should be revealed, and the Bet HaMikdash should be rebuilt Be'ezrat Hashem. So here's a beautiful tefillah that Esti Galavensis shared with us, with me, and with a lot of women. It was written as Leilui Nishmat, her son, who unfortunately passed away, because of terror. I want to share it with you. Bring this bigger. Hope you could see it. Okay. And I'm going to say it together. Let's join together with hundreds of women who at this hour get together and daven for the Geula and for Yeshuot for Am Yisrael. Yehi ratzon lefanecha, Adonai Eloheinu, ואלוהי אבותינו, אב הרחמן, שומע תפילה, שתהיה תפילתנו רצויה ואהובה מלפניך, ותקבל ברצון, ברחמים, במהרה בימינו. רצנה לגאלנו גאולה שלמה, גאולה בחסד וברחמים, מלא רחמים, תקום, תרחם ציון, כי עת לחננה, קיווה מועד, למען שכינתך, למען מקדשך, למען ארצך, למען עמך הרוצה את קרבתך מייחלים, לראות בתפארת עוזך. שמחנו אבינו בישועתך בישועתנו, ושלח לנו את אליהו הנביא, זכור לטוב עם משיח בן דוד, נגילה ונשמחה בישועתך במהרה בימינו, ואני בחסדך בטחתי, יגע ליבי בישועתך, אשיר על אדוני כי גמל עלי, יהיו לרצון אמרי פי וגיון ליבי, לפניך אדוני צורי וגואלי. We're going to go on. Yeah, it's a beautiful tefillah. We're going to go on to say the Mizmor Todah, thanking Hashem for the Geula Shlema, thanking Hashem for Yeshuot, for Am Yisrael, thanking Hashem for all the miracles and Nisim that He performs for us every single day. Let's all have in mind our private thank you to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Give me 1 minute. Why isn't this going off? Doesn't want to cooperate. Here it goes. Okay, this actually was made possible by somebody who wanted to honor Mrs. Paley. This should be the Leilui Nishmat, the two Paley brothers, Yaakov Yisrael and Asher Menachem. Hashem Yinkom Damam. Trying to share it with you. So somebody wrote this because Mrs. Paley had said a quote, Al tomar uf, tomar perek uf. Don't complain. Don't say uf, but instead say perek uf. So let us thank Hashem for all the good. Of course, we have challenges, but we know Hashem is going to bring us Yeshuot, Besorot Tovot, L'kol Amecha Yisrael, the zchut of this Chag HaGeula, Chag HaPesach, זמן חירותנו, may we see ישועות בקרוב. מזמור לתודה, פרק ק'. מזמור לתודה, הריעו לאדוני כל הארץ, עבדו את אדוני בשמחה, בואו לפניו ברננה, דעו כי אדוני, הוא אלוהים, הוא עשנו ולא אנחנו, עמו וצאן מרעיתו, בואו שעריו בתודה, חצרותיו בתהילה, הודו לו ברכו שמו, כי טוב אדוני לעולם חסדו, והדור ודור אמונתו. Let us join together now and just take a couple of moments to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the nisim in your own personal life. Thank Hashem for all the good, all the chesed, all the help He is giving you now, preparing for Pesach, preparing all the yummy food, cleaning your house, cleaning your insides. Thank you, Abba Sheva Shamayim. Thank you for helping us. Thank you for allowing us to be close to you. Thank you, Hashem, for the Chag HaCherut, of being able to be free, for being able to be connected to you truly, in essence, in our heart, in our souls. We thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu every single day, and today especially, as we go into the Leil of Dikat Chametz. And I'll share with you a segula. We spoke about Rabbanit Yamima, and Judith shared with us that it's Nisan. It's Nisan, it's the Chodesh of Nisim, but Nisan Shelahem. Nisan means the Nisim of their Nisim, they're the females Nisim. Bizchut Nashim Tzidkaniyot Nigalu, Ubizchutam Nigael. So let's now be able to connect in gratitude to Hashem. I want to thank you all for joining me at this very auspicious time, but also busy time of preparing for Pesach. But hopefully it'll give you a little bit of inspiration and give myself inspiration to be able to go into Pesach a little more with chizuk and understanding of what really the Seder is about and the Haggadah is all about. So let's begin. So we see that Chodesh of Nisim is Chodesh of Nisan. We said the miracles. We also see that tremendous kochot that this month brings us, right? This month brings us a tremendous koach of Nisim. It's the springtime. It's a time of Yitchachut. It's the time when we got the mitzvah of the Chodesh Hazeh, Lachem, Rosh Chodashim. This is the first of the months, the beginning of the year of us becoming a nation, becoming Hashem's Am Segula. And really, Nes, Nisan is Nes. Nes from Lashon, miracle. Nes from Lashon, a Nes is a banner, a flag that we wave. And what better time is when we have miracles, we have things that happen to us in our life, and we're so in gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We wave our banner and we say, thank you, Hashem, right? Thank you, Hashem, for allowing us to go through this in gratitude and recognizing the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that Hashem is revealing Himself personally to us. Nisan is the time of the revelation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in our lives. And when we go into Pesach, when we are sitting at the Leil Seder, I just heard a beautiful clip from Rabbi Wallerstein. I shared it in my group. If you want to be not part of my group yet, Living Inspired, I share a lot of chizuk, a lot of inspiration with women and things that inspire me. I hope you can hear me okay. So basically, I shared that Rabbi Wallerstein says when we sit at the Seder, when we sit down at the Leil Seder after our hard work and toil that we toiled to get there, we have to understand that we really are not just really recounting the story. Of course, it's mitzvah lesaper, la'arbot lesaper al yetziat Mitzrayim, the ability of understanding what it means going out of Mitzrayim is talking about it. The whole inyan of the HAGADDAH is understanding that we ourselves, as if we are when an experience the chirut, right? We are now free. We are bnei chorin. And during the time of the HAGADDAH, of the Leil Seder, we're supposed to sit and reflect upon us as bnei chorim. If Hashem wouldn't have taken me out of Mitzrayim, I wouldn't be here to tell the story, right? Also, Am Yisrael, but me, myself. What's my personal geula? What's my personal galut that Hashem freed me from? There's just a small difference from galut to geula. Galut is missing the aleph. The aleph is the aleph of emunah, the aleph of velufo shel olam, bringing Hashem into that picture. Where did Hashem reveal Himself more to me? And this is the time that Hashem does that. This is we see that Hashem has performed miracles, and He does perform miracles for us now. Bizchut nashim tzidkaniyot nigalu, ubizchutam nigael. That's what Nisan is. Nisan shelahem, and Nisim shelahen, of the women. What did Hashem do for me? What was my galut that I was freed from? How was I now redeemed? And during the seder, talk about it. And if it's private, talk to Hashem about it. Speak about it. Bring it out. Thank Hashem for it. There are times that I know at certain starim, there are people who are Holocaust survivors, and they recount their stories. They tell over their story, and they tell over the nisim that happened, and they thank Hashem publicly together with their family and with the guests sitting there, right? And they say, "V'hi she'amda lavotenu v'lanu," right? V'hi she'amda, that which stood. What stood? What helped us to survive? But Hashem in our lives, bring Hashem into our lives. Hashem helped them to get out of that galut. We all have a personal galut that Hashem is taking us out of. Let's recount that during the HAGADDAH. Lehagid, talk about it, speak about it, right? Mitzvah lesaper, it's a mitzvah to talk about it. And this is the koch of this month, is the koch of dibur. The speech. What is an eved? An eved is somebody who doesn't have the ability to speak. He doesn't have the ability to express himself. He doesn't have a voice. How many times in our lives did we feel that we didn't have a voice, that we didn't matter, that nobody heard us, right? You don't understand me. You can't hear what I'm saying to you. How many times do we feel that way? Even to Hashem. And look where we are today. Let's look back and say, thank you, Hashem, that today I have a voice. I'm able to speak. I feel better. I overcame that challenge. I overcame that depression, that anxiety. I overcame that challenge with my child. I overcame that, the inability of believing that you're there, Hashem. And now I see you, Hashem. It's clear to me, Hashem, that you're here. Let's now recount that gratitude and praise Hashem. The whole night is Hallel. Let's praise. We talk about the praises of Hashem. There's inyan after Arvit, before we start the HAGADDAH, to say Hallel. If you're in shul, you'll see they'll say the Hallel together. They're recounting it. Even this past Shabbat of Gadol, some people read the HAGADDAH, and all the more so Lev Seder, to sit down and to really make yourself a list of all the things that we feel in gratitude for. I'll share with you a personal story of, I had a friend that unfortunately went through the machala. She had cancer, and I remember she was in remission. I remember sitting at her table, and I was just saying, raising the cup, and I was saying, Hashem, thank you. Thank you for saving her life. Thank you that she's sitting here with her family. Unfortunately, she didn't survive the machala. She passed away. But I still remember that day, it's like how I was just sitting there, and it was like, thank you, Hashem, for allowing her to live another year, for giving her this zchut opportunity. And I remember that we said a l'chaim, we really were joyous because He gave us life. He gave her life. How many times Hashem saves our lives? How many times He saves us spiritually, emotionally, physically from the suffering that we're going through? This is the time for us to recount that, to say thank you, Hashem, for my personal geula. And of course, if we can't, to share with others, to publicize the miracles that happen for us throughout our lives. Go into the Seder with this koach, that you have this zchut of Hashem redeeming you. And if you're still in a certain state that you feel that Hashem is not, this is the time to daven for it. There's certain parts of the HAGADDAH that we can bring that up, and we're talking about being in avdut, right? Being an eved, and being, during the time of Bnei Israel, we're in avdut, we eat the matzah. The matzah is the bread of emunah. So we have to recount it, and also ask, and also daven, talk to Hashem, and ask Hashem to redeem me from this personal galut that I'm in right now. But it's really important to think of all those times where Hashem did, and to thank Him, and to thank Him in advance for helping us to be redeemed from the things that we're going through right now. We each need our personal geulah. Bezrat Hashem, we should be zocha this Leil Seder, this Pesach, to the true geulah shlema, Bezrat Hashem b'karov. So we spoke about a little bit. This month is the month of Nisan. It's the Chodesh Aviv. There's beginning. Everything is blossoming. If you're in Eretz Yisrael, you feel it. Today's gorgeous weather, and yesterday things are blossoming. This is the koach of Hitchachut. This is the month where we can renew our mazal, where we can become new, where we can reveal the good and see the good within us, right? The winter time is a time of dormancy, is a time of things laying underneath the ground. Doesn't look like anything is growing, but really there's tremendous potential, and that potential is being actualized during this time. Nisan is the beginning of the year. This is a month of opportunity, the month of beginnings. This was the Rosh Hashanah for the Melachim, when the Melachim declared their malchut, right? This is when you start to count, even if they just ruled for a few months. This is counted as the year from Nisan. And Nisan is also a time of tremendous personal avodah. This is a time for us to work on ourselves. This is a time for us to bring ourselves to fruition. This is a time for us to have this intimate relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because it's the time that we became a nation. We became Hashem's Am Segula. And we have this chidush, hitchachut, this chidush, chadash, chodesh, the first chodesh, right, of all the other months. There's new energy, there's new potential that has been dormant, lying dormant, that now can come up and be revealed. So if you want to start something, this is the month to do it, and you have that opportunity. And what are we doing this time? We're Erev Dikat Chametz. We're looking for the chametz. What's the difference between chametz and matzah? There's a slight difference. Chet mem tzadik and mem tzadik hey. The difference between the hey and the chet is a slight difference. The yetzer hara comes in as menapeach. It actually blows up, right? The bread is blown up by the yeast, right? The yetzer hara comes and blows things out of proportion for us, and it becomes chametz. It's machmitz. It becomes sour. It becomes not good, right? It becomes bloated. Maybe it's gava. Maybe it's anger. Maybe it's other bad midot. The slight difference of the matzah and the chametz. And today we're being meva'er et chametz. We say a bracha for bdikat chametz. We don't say al bdikat chametz. We say al biur chametz, for destroying, for burning the chametz. We are about to eradicate the bad. Take out the bad from our homes, the negativity, the yetzer hara, the anger, the sadness, the anxiety. All those are part of the chametz, that's machmitz, that becomes sour within us. And today, when your husband, or if it's you, your balat habayit, or if it's your son, whoever's doing the bdikat chametz, do the bdikat chametz too. Make a cheshbon nefesh within yourself of what you want to get rid of. And Rabbanit Yemima says it's a segula. As you're making the 10 pieces of bread, there's a minhag to hide 10 pieces of bread. Make sure you cover them. Make sure if your kids are hiding them, you make a list. They should make a list where they're hiding them, because there's always like one piece lost. I can't find it. Where'd you put it? I don't know. I don't remember. You're counting. What do you mean there's 9? It has to be 10. And it's always like, where is the piece? So make sure they make a list of where they hid it, and try to really, when you're putting these 10 pieces together, you prepare them. Make a little note with each one of what you want to get rid of. Maybe this anger, midah of anger. Maybe it's the midah of being stingy. Maybe it's the midah of not seeking to do chesed, being able to, want to do more chesed, to not being chesed, not seeing others. Whatever midot, anxiety, sadness, being single, right? Whatever you want to get rid of, put it with each piece of the bread. And when you go and you burn the chametz, you throw that into the fire. And you daven to Hashem, please remove all the chametz within me. That I did the bdika, I searched, I looked. By the way, every time you clean, you should think about, right? Oh, I'm now being mevael the chametz. Now I'm doing bdikas chametz. I'm searching for the chametz in the drawers. I'm really searching the chametz within myself. You're being mekayem mitzvah from the Torah. Another drawer, if you have to clean, if you have to look for, and when you're doing the bdikat chametz, it's also time for looking. That's also a time for looking and introspecting into ourselves and being able to eradicate that bad that's inside of us, that's holding us back, that anxiety, that inability to get close to Hashem. Maybe something is hindering that. Let us try to, remove that, so to speak, and ask Hashem to remove it. Daven during the bdika. Try to have kavanah when you're throwing it into the fire, to be able to get rid of that, to have true geulah, to have true rejuvenation, to have true connection with Hashem, and being able to see the outright nisim, the miracles that are happening to us in every single day of our life. And so we see that this redemptive quality of Nisan is existent during this time, especially tomorrow. Tomorrow is a day when we would be offering Be'ezrat Hashem the Korban Pesach, each one with their families, offering a sacrifice to Hashem. What's the Korban? Korban is lakriv, lashon karov, for bringing us closer to Hashem. This is instead of me, so to speak, right? And we know there's tremendous miracle that happened for them, that they were able to even sacrifice the God of the non-Jews, of the Mitzrim. How could it be? Shabbat HAGADDAH, we just celebrated. They're able to take their God and put it by their bedpost and watch it, right? That to make sure that it was prepared, didn't have any blemishes, not have any any blemishes, to be able to bring it as a korban. And they were able to take it and bring it as a korban, partake from it. And today we don't eat the Korban Pesach. We try to have something on the table, the Zroa, which is symbolic of the Korban Pesach. We don't point to it because we don't have the Korbanot today. We don't have the Bet HaMikdash. But we have the Emunah. that we will be, Bezat Hashem, be able to celebrate and bring this Korban Pesach. We have that tremendous emunah. It's the night of believing. It's the night of emunah. The matzah is the bread of emunah. Tremendous kochot on this night that we can achieve, that we can acquire from being able to be connected to the different simanim of the Leil Seder. And this is the emunah that we hold so close to our heart, to be able to come closer to Hashem, to be able to allow this redemptive quality that's inside each one of us to manifest itself. So it's important on this night, as we look at each of the simanim, we're going to talk about them a little more now, to be able to see in them that redemptive quality, to be able to see what they symbolize and daven to Hashem, that these objects that serve as symbols really should be able to be ingrained in my heart and my neshama, and be able to elevate me to higher levels of emunah and bitachon, and be able to really connect to Hashem in a higher, deeper way that reflects who truly I am. That's really Geulah, to be able to bring forth my potential and to be able to have simcha in doing that. And so during this night, I ask you, and I heard this from somebody who spoke about this, I think it was Miriam Cohen. She said to have a vision, to really think about where you want to see yourself. Bnei Israel had the vision. They wanted to go out of Mitzrayim. Could be they didn't want it badly enough because not everybody was redeemed. Not everybody was zocheh to come out. But we have to have a vision. We have to have this emunah. We have to have this belief. How do I envision myself being nig'elet, being able to be redeemed? How do I envision my reality of Geulah? If Mashiach were to come today, we spoke about this in my tefillah class last week, we say this every single day in the Amidah. Hashem, blow the shofar and redeem us and bring us together, kibbutz galuyot, bring us back to our home. If today somebody told you that Mashiach is coming, today, what would you say? Would you say, I'm ready? I'm going, no matter what? No, wait, I have a kugel in the oven. I can't, I have to finish. My b'dikas chametz. No, I have to go, I have to buy a few more things. I have to prepare. Or would you say, I'm going, I'm there, right? I'm not ready, I'm not sure if I could leave my home. I'm not sure if I could leave my situation, my gashmiut. Very hard, sometimes we're very attached. So where do you envision yourself? What's your Geulah look like? What does your Geulah look like? Let's imagine that. What does a Geulah look like for you? And how would I feel if this relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu would be even closer? If I would be able to truly see the good in everything that Hashem does for me? And if I step into this reality, into my reality of the Geulah, what do I envision for myself? What do I want for myself in terms of the Geulah? And how would I feel if I had it? How would I feel? Let's say a person, you don't have money to do something. Let's say you had the money. What would you do with it, right? So now you have the opportunity. Where does that take you? How does it make you feel? What does that look like for you? Who do you want to become through that? What do you want in your connection to Hashem with that? What does Geulah really mean for you? And if today Hashem says, here it is, it's time, what would it feel like? And during the Leil Seder, that's what we're supposed to experience. True Geulah. What does it feel like to be free? What does it feel like to be free of all the pain and all the sorrow that we've been carrying for hundreds, thousands of years? What does it feel like to be free of that weight, of that masa, of that burden that you're carrying for so long? It's Geulah. It's freedom. It's simcha. And how are we gonna react if not to praise Hashem and to thank Him for the opportunities that He gave us to grow from that galut, to truly feel what Geulah feels like? Because when we experience galut, we appreciate the Geulah, and that is what we're gaining. And Leil Seder night, that's what we're gaining by b'dikat chametz, by bi'ur chametz. We have to try like the Nachshon ben Aminadav to try to jump, right? He jumped right into the water. He took the plunge. He recognized that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was going to make miracles for him. We have to believe that Hashem is making miracles for us. And we have to believe that we need to take ownership and to do something to change that reality in our machshava, in our emotional in our physical, in our mental capacities. And that feeling of the Geulah, that feeling of redemption, we have to embrace it. But we have to do the work to be able to be proactive in the process once it gets there, once it gets here, B'ezrat Hashem. And so let's talk about this koach of this month. There's so much to talk about. But one of the things that we spoke about is the dibur. So we start in the Haggadah talking about the lechem oni, halach ma'anya. What's halach ma'anya? Lechem she'onin alav harbe. A bread that we speak a lot. We oneh, we're answering a lot. We speak a lot about it. We talk about it. We manifest it by talking about it, by pointing to it and seeing it in front of us and recognizing, what is this bread? It's the bread that Hashem, when he took us out of Mitzrayim, we didn't have time for our bread to rise, right? We didn't have time, so we had to rush. We have to get out. We just had this poor man's bread, lechem oni. We had a cracker. It was not bread. It didn't have time to rise. But that was a recognition that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was performing miracles for us. And so this process that we're talking about of dibur is this ability for us to be able to understand that koach of dibur. And the culmination of koach of dibur is through our thought processes, which is the chokhmah, bina, and dat, the spheres of dibur. So this is what we're talking about. And the final culmination of this process, this is, by the way, this is a process of not only our thought, it gets into our emotions, and then it gets into our action as well. Give me 1 second. Okay, sorry, ladies. So this is the lechem oni that we're speaking about, the bread of the poor man, right? And I'm reading from a really special book, which is Introductions to the HAGADDAH by Rav Dov Ber Pinson. He speaks about the pathways to Pesach and the HAGADDAH. It's really beautiful sefer. So here he says that there are two things that are linked with the lechem oni, the poor person, that really, he says, might speak of dvarim harbe, many matters or lots of words over his piece of matzah. But indeed, he says, in the context of the HAGADDAH, we speak of many matters. And we say lots of words over the broken, poor man's matzah. The HAGADDAH, which means speaking, lahagid, right? As does the magid, right? The longest section of the HAGADDAH is called magid, right? The part that we speak about. We recount and discuss our movement from slavery to redemption at length. And there are many words. Speaking many words can be viewed as a form of verbal catharsis that brings into inner healing. When a poor person, whether he's literally poor, mentally poor, emotionally poor, right? He's stuck, or paralyzed, right? In his muteness and unable to speak, unable to express himself. Right? This is the deep inner exile that a person feels, like we mentioned. And the process of this healing and redemption is activated through what? It's activated by the ability to speak, by saying dvarim harbe, allowing for a cascade of words to tumble out of his mouth to facilitate a sudden flash of self-expression, he says, and self-awareness that opens one to inner transformation and redemption. Lechem she'onin alav dvarim harbe. This is the bread that we speak many words. And throughout the HAGADDAH, we're moving from the historical Egypt into the inner Egypt, the Mitzrayim. What's the Mitzrayim? The Metzarim, the places of constriction. That's what we're talking about. We have to talk about our constrictions. We have to talk about the things that are moneas, that prevent us from being able to speak. And this is the ability for us to do so through the HAGADDAH, through speaking, through bringing about the Nisim, to talk about the Nisim and the Geulah that was caused for us. It's interesting to note that also part of the same idea of Oni and Dvarim Harbe, as part of the same idea of the mental, emotional, and spiritual poverty, that no one is poor. We're told in Gemara Nedarim, no one is poor except one who lacks dat. which is awareness and knowledge, understanding. And often a person without self-awareness speaks many words, quote unquote, right? From this perspective, he says, Dvarim harbe is not the remedy necessarily for such inner poverty. Rather, it can also be an expression of the problem and the syndrome. So sometimes this kind of speech is not necessarily the remedy, but it's really showing what we're feeling on the inside. And when a person is conveying a coherent thought, they might use many words, but not lots of words. Harbe suggests an unnecessary, disconnected overabundance of words. And this is because the person is poor in his dat or in his self-awareness. So when a person needs to say a lot of words to transmit a thought, it shows, he says, that the idea is not really securely and assimilated within him, right? And that's why he's saying dvarim harbe. He's sort of like going on and on and on. But really still, he is considered an ani. So here in this state of mental, emotional poverty with stuck or immature, and he's asked to speak dvarim harbe, right, in direct words. So in the case of Klal Yisrael, how does that relate? That when they finally gained a voice, right, when they finally were able to speak, they were still mentally, emotionally, and spiritually enslaved and immature, at least some of them, right? And so they spoke Lashon Hara maybe, right? Maybe they didn't speak positive talk. That's part of Lashon Hara. So when they were in the state of lacking dat, redemption did not really seem to be a possibility. And Moshe was the embodiment of the opposite, which was dat. Moshe was the one who was able to help them to redeem themselves, right? To make it a possibility even. And when they began to listen to Moshe Rabbeinu, then they began to have this consciousness, this dat, he says. And what is Pesach? The word Pesach connects with this concept. Pesach, a mouth that is speaking, right? Pesach is a mouth that is speaking. And we could have a Pe-ra, we could have a Pesach. A Pe-ra is a bad mouth. A Pesach is a mouth that speaks. And they cannot be correct speech without having dat. And so Moshe gave them this ability to be able to speak in a way that it wasn't Lashon Hara. It wasn't bad speech. It wasn't speech that was going to prevent them from getting closer to Hashem, but being able really to be a ruach memalala. We are a speaking being. The fact that we have the koach of dibur shows that we have a higher ability to speak. And so our koach of being able to breathe, to being able to bring out our speech, right? The wind of breath, the ruach memalala, right? That's what it means. Is this ability for us? It says here, the breath rises from the lungs, passes through the vocal cords. This is how we're able to speak, right? And it fills our mouth, and then the various powers of the mouth shape it into particular sounds and in sequences that are understood as words. That's the koach of dibur, right? And this undifferentiated sound essentially says the vibrating wind of breath is filtered through these 5 powers of our mouths. What are the 5 powers of our mouths? The lips, the throat, the teeth, the palate, and the tongue. And thus becomes the distinctive words that we say. So there's a lot to say about that, but what happened with Bnei Yisrael, if you remember, with regards to their breath, they had kotzer ruach. Their breath was cut off, so to speak. They had shortness of breath. They couldn't take the galut anymore, right? That was the galut. And that was their their inability to speak. They couldn't speak. He says the word galut comes from the word gal, which means a wave or revealing. And so how can galut and geula in their root mean the same thing? They're really opposites, he says, right? But really we see that he says in Sefer Vayikra, the Torah uses the word geula, redemption, many times. And the Torah speaks of various legal types of geula, legal rights around the mitzvah to redeem properties, to redeem slaves, right? This is all forms of geula, to be gole something, to reveal something. Exile then means being separated, estranged, alienated from one's homeland, whether physically or spiritually. And in the Torah, there are other people that are also mentioned with regards to exile, right? To correct their actions. The Mitzorah, he has to go outside, he has to sit alone, right? We know that he has certain signs on his body, right? And what happened? Why does he become a Mitzorah? Because he's motzi shem ra. He speaks negative speech. So that's part of being in the galut, in the Gola. Because there's a lot to say about this. We're going to continue. So I want to take you to understanding a little bit about the Seder plate. If you give me just a minute. There's a lot of deep concepts here. And I don't know if you guys want to learn more, we can go into it more in Pesach. But as far as it goes now, we'll for today, we'll try to get as much as we can get in. So I want to talk about the Ke'ara. So the Ke'ara has a tremendous amount of chashivut to the Seder, because we said that all the things that that are on the Ke'ara are symbolic, right? Remember, we mentioned that. And each one is an object, but it's symbolic of something much deeper. And so I want to take you to the actual Ke'ara and to the mitzvot that are related to the Ke'ara. Give me 1 second. Just want to find it. And one very important thing. We should set the Ke'ara up. If you have a housekeeper, a cleaning lady that's coming to your house, she should not be setting your table. She should not be setting your Ke'ara. A Yirei Shamayim should be setting the Ke'ara because it has tremendous kochot, tremendous meaning, kedusha, and we have to be setting our table. Even Shabbat, women, goyim should not be setting our table for Shabbat. Something that's of kedusha should be done with somebody who is a Jew, somebody who's a Yirei Shamayim. So we know with the Ke'ara, there are different parts of the Ke'ara, and each one of them is symbolic of something in the Sfirot. And we start off with the 3 matzot, right? We start with Kiddush, really. We start the Ke'ara, but I'm saying the part of the Ke'ara is also the 3 matzot. And, what we do with the matzot is also very symbolic. We break the matzot, we eat the matzot in a sandwich. The symbolism of the matzot is, tremendous. We're going to talk about it. 1 second. Okay. So we know that the matzot, on a simple level, right? Matzah is a poor man's bread. It was the bread of affliction, right? When we ate when we were slaves. And we're told that, right? At the beginning, we spoke about the lechem oni. It says that at the end of the HAGADDAH, towards the end of the Magid, there's a Mishnah that we're told that this matzah that we eat, what do we eat it for? Right? Al Shema, because the dough of our forefathers didn't have time to rise, right? And Hashem revealed himself and redeemed them. We eat the matzah as a reminder that the bread that we ate as we were leaving Mitzrayim, as the dough did not have time to rise. That's on a simple level. We eat the matzah also as a remembrance. What is the remembrance of? The matzah that Klal Yisrael were commanded to eat on the night that they were going to leave Mitzrayim, long before they actually left. As the pasuk says, on that evening of Pesach, you should eat matzot, right? You should eat matzot. In other words, there are 3 types of matzot that are really related to the Yetziat Mitzrayim. And the matzah that was produced because they left in great haste, which is matzah as the bread of freedom, and the matzah as the mitzvah to eat matzah with the Korban Pesach. And when we read this, the text, perhaps the pshat, the literal reason why we eat the 3 matzot, right? In the middle and the latter broken matzah is a reminder of the bread of affliction, as we spoke about. The broken, not complete matzah. That's the middle one, right? The first reason we eat matzah. The bottom full matzah serves as a reminder of what? Of the second reason, the flat bread that doesn't rise. Besides being flat, it also sits at the bottom of the sack. And this is a reminder of the bread we ate in haste, as it didn't have time to rise. So we eat it, it serves at the bottom. The top matzah, which we recite the bracha over, of Hamotzi lachem min haaretz and al achilat matzah, right? We recite that matzah, that's the mitzvah of the night. It corresponds to the third reason of the mitzvah of eating matzah from the Torah. There's a remez, a hinted reason for the 3 matzot. So we know that 3 matzot are a hint at the 3 matzot that were offered in the Bet HaMikdash. For what? What we spoke about earlier as Thanksgiving, right? We have to give Todah to Hashem. And this offering was made when a person was saved from danger, right? Or he was, let's say, for example, a person was in prison, he was released from prison, he came through he survived a sickness. It says, on Pesach, we give thanks for what? For Yetziat Mitzrayim, for being able to leave Mitzrayim, which was like being freed from prison. We're no longer in the prison of Mitzrayim, the Mitzarim, the constricted place, right? We have to remember that. And so we eat the matzot, the 3 matzot, as there were 3 types of baked matzot in the Torah. So there were chalot, rekikin, verevucha, cakes, wafers, and cakes of flour saturated with oil, and one leavened bread, ideally 10 of each, but even 1 of each is sufficient, we're told, interestingly enough. So 3 matzot also remind us when Avraham Avinu, what happened with Avraham Avinu when he had the visitors from the angels that came to visit him, right? And he told Sarah, hurry, right, to go and prepare, bring the finest flour, knead it, and make ugot. You should make cakes, round breads. We're told ugot are round breads. And the Midrash says that this meal took place when? On Pesach. And the ugot are the matzot made in a hurry so they don't become chametz. So we take 3 matzot to remind us of the 3 measures in the meal of Avraham, of the matzah. Now we're going to the drush. We're going to a deeper level, the expanded reason for the 3 matzot. The 3 matzot we know, we learned this probably, relate to Avraham and to Yitzchak and to Yaakov. They are also representative of one other category of the 3 kinds of Jews there are. There's Kohen, Levi, and Yisrael. And as we described earlier, when we're preparing for the Seder, we stack the matzot, we said, in this order. Right? First, the first matzah represents Yisrael, which is at the bottom. Then we have Levi above it, and finally the Kohen on top. And in this order, the acronym is what? Yelech. Yelech. Yud Lamet Chaf. Meaning going, journeying. The Seder is transformative process. Right? Yelech is Yud is Yisrael, Lamet Levi, Chaf is Kohen. This is a transformative process of the Seder, a journey towards liberation. This is brought down from the Lubavitcher Rebbe's HAGADDAH. The Sod aspect, the mystical reason for the 3 matzot. It says that in Gemara that a child does not know how to call a father or mother until he tastes grain. We're told this in Sanhedrin. And this implies that the consumption of wheat is associated with our intellectual development, like we spoke about, the dat, right? The faculty of dat, the faculty of understanding. The Arizal teaches that 3 matzot symbolizes the 3 forms of intellect. What is the 3 forms of intellect? The Chabad, Chokhmah, Bina, and Dat. That's the 3 intellect, the 3 forms of intellect. Chokhmah is the wisdom, Bina is the understanding, and Dat is the awareness. And the matzah on the bottom of the stack is the one that is combined with the maror. That's what we're going to eat when we eat korech. That's Hillel sandwich. And this matzah specifically embodies the quality of dat, the quality of intellectual potential that bridges the right brain creativity and the left brain analytics, connecting intellectual information in mind with emotional responses. It's not just the intellect, right? That's in the heart, the emotion in the heart. A similar dynamic is found when we eat the korech, found in the korech sandwich, which brings together, what does it bring together? The intellect, the matzah, and the maror. What's the maror? The maror is the emotions. Okay, and this is also part of Geula and Galut. We have this throughout the Haggadah. If you look at the Haggadah, even in the Manishtana, there's always the contradiction between Galut and Geula, between redemption and exile, between Avdut and Cherut, slavery and freedom. There's always that contradiction. The child should ask. There should be something that people should inquire about. We should recognize the differences. We should understand that we have to be able to know one to be able to identify the other. So since we break the middle matzah in 2, this is an expression of Bina, the left part of the brain, and the capacity to break down creative ideas into finer details. This is the ability of a woman to have this Bina, right? To be able to break things down. The larger of the pieces, we leave it. When do we leave it, right? We leave it for later on for the korech, but actually we're told we should break it into 5 smaller pieces because before it is hidden, before you hide it as the afikoman, when are we hiding it for later? Not the korech, sorry, it was the afikoman. So these 5 pieces represent what? The 5 levels of gvura. And those are restriction and discipline. Right? That's what we're talking about. And we talk about this when we learn about Sfirat HaOmer. We're going to go into these midot in more detail. So we have chesed of gvura, gvura shebegvura, tiferet of gvura, Netzach of Gvura, and Hod of Gvura. Okay, and these are all part of Bina, right? Of this aspect of Bina. These are again the aspects, the higher aspects the world was created with. And in terms of the 4 letters of Hashem's name, the Yud, He, and the Vav, He, Bina is connected with the upper letter He. He is 5, right? It's the 5th letter in the alphabet. It's composed of 2 parts. If you look at it, what is it composed of? The right vertical line connected to a horizontal line above, and a left suspended line to the left. And therefore, that's the middle matzah, which is broken into 2, and then further into 5. That's what's symbolic of we're breaking into 5 pieces. The top matzah is consumed together with the remaining piece of the middle matzah in fulfillment of the mitzvah of matzah, right? When we eat the matzah, we take the top and the middle, fulfilling the mitzvah from the Torah. And this is a manifestation of chokhmah, a higher intuition of our faith, right? What is above and beyond us, something that we can't comprehend just with our mind. And since the top matzah is connected with the letter Yud, which is the name of Hashem, right? A simple one-pointed letter, the matzah is therefore not broken and remains one whole piece. Also, since the idea of matzah, in contrast to chametz, we spoke about it before, is the letter He, matzah, mem tzadik He, that symbolizes humility. The opposite, we said, of the grandiose, the puffiness of the chametz, right? This is humility, simplicity, unaffectedness. The 3 matzot correspond to the 3 ways that we can write the letter He. He can be written in the combination of Daled and Yud. It could be written as Daled and Vav, or 3 lines, which are 3 Vavs. That's how we could think of it. So that spells the letter He. So therefore, the top matzah which we eat, what do we use it for? We use it for hamotzi, right? It's the first whole matzah, but when we break off a small piece to eat, the small piece of matzah broken off is shaped like, we're told, a Yud. And the remaining part of the matzah is shaped like a Daled. We have to try to break it in that way. That always doesn't work. Okay, so the middle matzah, which is broken at the beginning of the seder, which meant to be broken in the shape of a Daled, that's what we have the korech, right? The smaller piece of that shape of the Vav is nearly half of a matzah, bigger than a form of like a Yud. At the bottom matzah is used to make a sandwich, right? We take a sandwich of 3 things: the Pesach, the meat from the Pesach, when offered, we don't offer it, matzah, and maror. And this fact corresponds to the He, made of 3 lines, like we mentioned, the 3 Vavs. Okay, there's more to say about the matzah. We're going to go skipping to the parts of the Seder plate. So we're told that the Seder plate, interestingly enough, different than the lines we were talking about, is round, right? It's actually a round Seder plate. It's very important also that it is round. It's a connection of our life cycle, so to speak, the circle, the igul, the image of a circular space in which all potential reality was contained within as one, non-individuated and non-distinct, no beginning and no end, right? A circle has no beginning and no end, he says here. And within a circle, a kav, a line was formed with distinct points and an up and down sequential structure with a clear beginning and a definite end. So this is a concept, the igul, the shape of the circularity, is a metaphor for non-physical paradigm of perfection, equality, of that we're all equal. Every point of a circle is equidistant from the center, right? We know that, and so that's connection to the kav, the connection that we have to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the connection we have to the light, right? Before there was Tzimtzum, before this world was constricted, so to speak. Now, it's important that we understand these concepts because these concepts help us to understand the symbolism of each one of the parts of the Haggadah, of the Seder, and that each one is important. Okay, I want to talk about the Sfirot because they're going to relate to the Ke'ara itself, the order of the Sfirot that we have. So we have the 10 divine Sfirot, 10 divine attributes, and it says they act like screens in relation to the Or Ein Sof, to the light of the infinite, which penetrates our divine reality through them, right? And The distinctly formed and shaped sfirot are like curtains, we're told, or like colored containers through which the infinite colorless, formless, unified light is reflected into the world. So we could think about it that Hashem is bringing down the light into this world through these sfirot. And the order of the sfirot are as follows. First, there are 3 intellectual sfirot on the right side. Okay, that's the side. That's chokhmah, intuition and wisdom. On the left side is bina, cognition and reason. And in the middle is da'at, is the knowledge and awareness, the ability to assimilate wisdom, reason, and practical matter. Underneath that are 3 primary internal emotions. So the first part was intellectual, now we're going to go into the emotion. On the right side, the expansive column of chesed, right underneath chesed, which is loving giving. That's underneath chachma is chesed. And then we have on the left side, the constrictive column, which is gevura. And in order to synthesize the 2, in the middle we have tiferet. Okay, Gevura is strength and restraint. And in the middle is the synthesis of Tiferet, which is Chesed and Gevura. And that symbolizes compassion and harmony. And compassion is the idea that the giver giving with a sensitivity for how much the receiver needs and can receive. And then there's 3 primary outer emotions. We have inner emotions. Now we have outer emotions, how we outwardly express our inner strivings. And underneath, on the right side, is netzach, right? Netzach is confidence, it's perseverance. On the left side is hod, humility and devotion. And in the middle, channel of unification, connecting the giver again and the receiver, is yesod. Yesod is the relationship part and the intimacy. And of course, we have the 10th one, which is the sphira of malchut, which is malchut is kingship, receptivity, and it serves as the vessel that receives from preceding 9 sphirot, right? And it rechannels the energies downwards, and therefore becomes the crown. The malchut is the crown, and for the subsequent partsuf or persona and the structure of the sphirot. So now, getting into the kara. Sorry to go so deep, but I think you'll enjoy this. As we prepare the kara, we're mimicking these cosmic unfoldings of the sphirot. We take an igul, we take the circle, the kara itself, and we place it on the table, right? Although not required, we're told, the kara is round, like I mentioned, right? Which is also the shape of the shmur matzah. We use shmur matzah for the left side down. We begin to assemble the structure by placing 3 round matzot in a stack, like we mentioned. And these are representative of the 3 intellectual sfirot, Chabad, Chokhmah, Bina, and Dat, right? And that is the consumption of the wheat. Remember we said when a child eats wheat, it gives him Da'at. That's the consumption of the wheat connected with our inner intellectual development. In the words of Chazal, it says a child doesn't know how to call father or mother until he tastes grain. That's the Gemara that tells us that. Okay, and that's a personification of the Chachma and the Bina. On the bottom, we place the matzah that will form the korech, like we said, the Hillel sandwich. This matzah is symbolic of the Dat, a sphira which unites and synthesizes opposites. And Hillel sandwich represents this intellect, right? The matzah. And the maror represents the emotional part. That's what we spoke about. Now, in the middle, we place the matzah that we're going to be breaking in 2 pieces. One that's going to be hidden away for the afikoman, right? While the smaller half remains in the stack. So this matzah is representative of the left column, which is the sphira of bina, the idea of breaking down ideas into finer details. And therefore, it's broken into 2, with the afikoman itself broken into 5 small pieces, like we had mentioned, which reflect the 5 levels of gevura. Okay, of restraining ourselves. Now, on top of this is the 3rd matzah. We place the matzah that's going to be eaten with the smaller half of the middle when we fulfill the obligation to eat the matzah. You have to eat from the top and the middle. And this matzah is reflective of the chokhmah, a higher intuition, a super rational faith and understanding, right? And connection to transcendence, connected to something higher. And therefore, this is a matzah that's going to be fulfilling the mitzvah, that's supernatural, that's above teva, of being able to eat matzah. That's the mitzvah from the Torah. And next, we arrange the 6 items of the food. Maybe I'll show you a picture so that it becomes more clear. 1 second. Okay. Where is it? 1 second. Okay. Not sure this one is the right order. Some of them are not always placed in the right order. Let's take a look at this one. Okay. It's loading for some reason. It does not load so fast. Let's check this out. Now we're just going to continue because it's getting late here. We're doing our bdika soon. For some reason my computer is not getting it. Let's see. One more time. Okay. I'm not sure if this is the accurate one. Let's see. Hopefully this is the accurate one. As we read it, we'll see if it's correct. Okay. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Okay. I hope this is correct. Let's read it and we'll see if it's correct. And we're going to have to wrap it up soon, so I'm going to do this a little quickly. So now we have the actual center plate, the ka'ara. One second. Okay, 6 items of the ka'ara correspond to the 6 lower levels of the sefirah. So we're going to think of it as an upper triangle of items reflecting the 3 dominant and intellectual emotional sefirot, and the lower triangle representing the 3 outer and more externally directed sefirot. Additionally, it says the upper triangle of the ka'ara is connected with mitzvot of the Torah, which were performed during the time of the Beit HaMikdash. We know that there's two special korbanot, the offering of the Pesach, Korban HAGADDAH and Korban Pesach, and then the Maror, which is also from the Torah. The lower triangle represents the 3 prominent rabbinic mitzvot, midirabanan, which is the charoset, right? The karpas, and the hillel sandwich. Well, it's not part of this picture, but that's what it's representative of. The upper right side of the plate, okay, is the zroa. You see that over here. A roasted chicken neck or shank bone symbolizing what? The Korban Pesach, we know, right? So the word for zroa reminds us of the zroa netuya. That is the hand, the outstretched hand, arm of Hashem, which is the divine chesed, right? And loving kindness that was shown to us when we came out of Mitzrayim. So the zroa is the attribute of chesed. On the opposite side, we have the betzah, right? The egg, the hard-boiled egg. And this is symbolic of the Korban Chagiga. This is the Korban that was brought as for the Yom Tov, right? The fact that it was a Yom Tov meal. Why the egg? Egg is a food that's eaten traditionally for mourning, right? The oval shape represents like the completion of the cycle of life. And therefore the egg is associated with gvura, which is the constriction that's felt in a time of loss, right? So this is showing the experiential concealment of the revealed chesed. It's the opposite of chesed. Gvura also can mean strength. Like unlike other items or foods where cooking softens the food, right? When you cook an egg, the more you cook it, the harder it gets. And this is the concept of gvura that we're mentioning. And it also relates now to the hardships of Mitzrayim. The harsher the conditions, the hotter it got, the stronger that we became, right? So the betzah is the attribute of gvura. It's interesting to note that betzah in Aramaic is be'ah. which means desires, because Hashem desired to redeem us with an outstretched hand. Okay, let's take a look. The upper middle. So it's right here, you see on top is the maro, the bitter herbs. This is like the point of the triangle, right? The attribute of tiferet, mercy and compassion, becoming aware of our own spiritual condition. And this may arouse merirut, bitterness within us. When we eat the bitter herbs, right, we're supposed to think of the bitterness. And it's supposed to create for us a desire to want to do what? To want to change and to stimulate a compassionate response from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, merirut is not depression, where we stop feeling altogether, right? It's an overwhelming feeling of bitterness for our estrangement and realizing how disengaged we are and how far we are from living our truth. This is what we're supposed to think about when we're eating the maro. But we want also to have that desire to be connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and that stimulation to be able to return to Hashem and to awaken the Rachamim Rabim, the infinite compassion from Hashem. So when through external stimuli we feel discomfort, right? Through things that happen outside of us, we feel discomfort, we feel bitterness, right? We awaken in ourselves the ability to do what? We awaken in ourselves the ability to be empathetic to others. People who are in real pain, we understand their pain. So when we eat the maro, ladies, we should awaken this empathy and compassion within ourselves for the bitterness, for our own bitterness, for our lowliness, right? For how low we feel. And this can maybe also arouse in us the compassion from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Please, Hashem, see my merirut, see my lowliness, see how far gone I am. I want to be closer to you. Awaken the rachamim of Hashem. Okay, again, we have a lot more to say. We're going to try to move it along. Next part of the triangle is reflecting the outer emotional sfirot, the mitzvot of the chachamim that we spoke about. So the lower right side, as you can see here, some people use parsley, celery. Some people use potato because they didn't have vegetable. It should be a vegetable symbolic of cherut, the greenness of it. Of course, we dip it into salt water, which represents also cherut. Avdut, but we want to feel the avdut with the cherut. That's the juxtaposition, right? That we weren't completely free yet. So this, actually, he says, one second, the lower, actually, he says that the charos is supposed to be on the right side. I apologize. So this picture is wrong. I had a feeling it was. Okay, so on the right side, on the lower right side should be the charoset. So this is opposite. Okay, the charoset should be here. So the charoset is representative of the netzach. The charoset is, we're supposed to have it with different kind of fruits. Some people say you make it for all the fruits that Bnei Yisrael are compared to. The Ben Ish Chai said all the fruits that the Bnei Yisrael are compared to in Shir HaShirim. So we have almonds, walnuts, dates. Some people put limon also as part of things we're compared to apples, all those, and wine. We have to put a little bit of wine. So this represents charoset, the netzach, the charoset, which is of all the fruits of the trees, things that are growing tall and mighty, mirroring the quality of power, of perseverance, right? Of confidence. Okay, so we're really neutralizing the merirut, the bitterness. Okay. Now, besides neutralizing the bitterness of maro, there's chazeret, right? In the chazeret, the charoset also reminds us of something. It reminds us of what? It reminds us of the fact that we had built all these, fortresses for them, pyramids, right? We used mortar. We laid the bricks as slaves. So despite the harsh conditions that we persevered and built structures that lasted and survived the sands of time, I heard somebody say, my Rav Levi said, there's no such thing as ani lo yachol, but there is ani lo rotze. Like if you think about it, they didn't have a voice, we said. They couldn't function, but they were able to accomplish so much. They built them, the pyramids and all these fortresses, right? And it's not that they were slaves, but they were slaves. They didn't have a voice. They couldn't voice themselves. So it's not ani lo yachol. If they could do it, right, then we can do anything. But we live in a generation, it's like, no, I can't do it. I can't, we don't believe. We don't have the confidence. We don't have that perseverance. And that's what we have to work on. So the charoset with its dominant ingredient, and it says it's apples. It says that under the apple tree, I betrothed you. And this is showing that in the horrific hardship of slavery, we were resilient. We flourished. Right? The more the Egyptians oppressed us, the more we multiplied. And this is the quality of Netzach. The self-confidence, the resilience, the perseverance, no matter how hard things are, no matter the trials and tribulations, we know Hashem that we're able to overcome. That's Netzach, that's Nitzchiyut, right? And Nitzachon is victory. The lower left side, this should be the opposite we said, is the karpas. The karpas is, like we said, an onion. Some people use onion, potato, celery. The karpas reflects the idea of hod, the idea of humility, because vegetables, they grow low. They're lower in the ground, different than the fruit of like the charoset, right? So we see this humility, this wonderment. The karpas, in the karpas, we have the word kaf, which is palm of your hand, and resh, which is rosh, which is symbolic of someone who is impoverished. Sorry, not rosh, rash, somebody who's impoverished. And samech is like somech, supporter. So the karpas is representing the hand of the poor man, open to receive in humility. Additionally, we saw, that hakarpas is also symbolic of samech parech. Samech is shishim, the 60 times 10,000 shishim ribo of the Jews that were in avodat parech, that served in slave labor. So we take the karpas during the seder and we dip it in the salt water, right, to elicit the questions we know from the children. A lot of things that the questions the children should ask. And this is related to hod, awakening a sense of wonder, which is connected to, we said, to humility. That's what it's connected to. And it's like being in awe of the creation of the world. And this way, karpas is reflecting the attribute of hod. In the lower middle is the chazeret, and that's placed in the lower middle column. And it's also like a bitter herb, which is going to be eventually used for the Hillel sandwich. The chazeret is reflective of the yesod. That's the foundational connectivity, the middle part, which is integrative, right? The integrative forces, which binds all the sefirot together. And ad the ka'ara, the chazeret, is really connecting and integrating the entire system of seemingly polarized structures and dynamics of the Seder, Dov Pinson tells us. And so it brings together the concept of freedom and the concept of exile, the affliction and the salvation, the matzav, liberation, and the maror of the pain. It's bringing it all together. And the last one is the malchut. In this three-dimensional depiction of the sefirot is the Seder plate. The Seder plate itself is malchut, the ke'ara itself, which is the vessel and the container of all these points of light within it. And that's why I told you it's so significant that we set up our ke'ara, or our husband set it up, that we have all these, intentions when we're setting it up, that we're davening for these midot, that we're bringing out our freedom. It says here with the structure of all these items and where they are, we can now journey toward radical infinite freedom, he says, according to Rebbe Rashab. With our structure intact, we can receive the awe-inspiring koach. We're going to get koach, we're going to get power of freedom to be able to be revealed to us during this night. And it says infinity, which is beyond the ishtalshalut, the order of creation of the world. And this will allow us to recognize and internalize a manifestation in the words of the HAGADDAH that I am not an angel, I am not a slaf, I am not a messenger, but I, Hashem, alone. So when we set up our Seder plate, ladies, let's connect to this concept. Let's understand that we're connecting to the different sefirot that bring about the Yeshua, the Geulah, the feeling of the Avdut, the feeling of the Chirut, the feeling of all those, the synthesis of those together. And that's what we talk about throughout the HAGADDAH. Very, very quickly, just to mention also the number four. The number four in the HAGADDAH repeats itself. We have the 4 questions, we have the 4 kosot, we have the 4 stages of, it says of maaseh, of action, he says, kadesh, urchatz, karpas, yachatz, that all of these steps occur in the world of physical action, of asiyah. The next stage of, which composed really mostly of dibur, right, is the parts of the magid, the step of the magid, where we speak at length, we know, the avdut and the chirut. The magid stimulates and draws out our emotions. So the magid occurs in the concept of the world of emotional world of Yitzira. There are four worlds that this world is created with. The third stage is composed of machshava, of our intention. And this stage includes the steps of motzi matzah, maror, korech. Okay, motzi matzah is two, maror and korech. When we eat the matzah and the maror, we're focused on the intention, intellectual understanding of what and why we're eating these foods. When you're eating the matzah, have intention to be mekayem the mitzvah mideoraita of eating matzot. Have intention of every bite of the matzah is emunah. It's emunah bread. It's feeding us with more emunah. Have intention of davening to Hashem for geula, that we shouldn't be able to be in avdut, and we should feel the chirut. We should feel Hashem's freedom in every being, in every vibe, every part of our life and our nefesh. Getting back to the fourth stage of the seder, it's connected to chachma, to wisdom, or hirhur, he says, higher subtle intuition. When is that? When we sing the Hallel, when we praise Hashem for all the things, right? Not only during this day, this special day, but all of this dawning of redemption that's about to happen, transcending all darknesses, all exiles that we feel. And this occurs in the spiritual transcendent, brilliant world of Atzilut. That's the fourth dimension of the creation of this world. We have the four cups, we have the four types of mitzvot, four parts of the Haggadah. There are four Torah mitzvot, which is the Korban Pesach, the Magid, Haggadah, the mitzvah to say the Haggadah, the Maror, and the Matzah. Those are the four. If I had time, I would go into them a little more. But we really have to tap into these four things. There's also four blessings of the Makom, Baruch HaMakom, Baruch Hu, Baruch Shenatan Torah L'Amo Yisrael, right? And Baruch Hu, what?
Four sons. The four sons.
Right. I was going to get to that. And the four sons, the four cups also, which relate to the four Lashonot of the Geulah, we know, very, very important. And we have a fifth aspect that's transcending this world, and that's the Koshel Eliyahu, the fifth one, will be Zoche to the Geulah Shlema. So ladies, there's so much to think about. There's so much to learn about. Open up your Haggadah. Try to look deeply and try to find a Dvar Torah. Try to find something that relates to you. Tell it over. Speak about your Geulah. Speak about the Yetziat Mitzrayim. Really tap into the koach of this day, because whatever we do during the Leil Seder is going to bring us Geulah. It's going to bring us to that realization, to this concept of what it means to be free. And remember what I told you, try to meditate and think about, am I ready for the Geulah? What does that mean for me? What does that look like for me? How is that I'm going to be, how am I going to feel? Where am I going to be? Where am I going to be? What am I going to say? There are some people that prepare a special garb, special outfit. We buy special clothing for Yom Tov, the time Mashiach, the special clothing. Some people are preparing already their dress for Mashiach. Wear your dress. Some people have a minhag to wear a kaftan, to wear a nice special robe. Men wear kittles, because we're sitting as Melachim, we're sitting on couches, we're reclining, we're doing things that are symbolic of our Geulah. We have to feel it, we have to internalize it, we have to embody it. And Be'ezrat Hashem will be zoche to it. May Hashem bring us the Geulah Shlema. The Malchut Hashem should be revealed. The Bet HaMikdash should be rebuilt. Mashiach Tzidkenu should be here. Eliyahu Navi should come. Mevaser Tov should tell us good news. Each one of you personally, privately, and together as klal, we should be zocha to be in the Binyan Bet HaMikdash b'mihira b'yameinu b'karov this Pesach. Be'ezrat Hashem. Thank you so much for joining me today on a very busy day. And I give you a bracha.
Keren. Amazing.
Thank you. I give you a bracha that everything should go smoothly. And I want to tell you one other thing that's really, really important. It's not only the food. It's not only the bdikat chametz and the cleaning of our house, but it's really going into the Pesach with a positive mindset to avoid conflict. There's so much, going on. Everyone's busy in the house. There's so much that needs to get done. Try to reflect upon something positive and go into Yom Tov b'simcha. Try to rest as much as you can tomorrow. I know it's hard. There's so much to do. but give yourself that time to just rest, to nap, to read something, and not go into it bebahala, right? Even though we say bebelo yatzanu mimitzrayim, we came out of bebahala out of Mitzrayim, we don't have to go into the Leil Seder with behala, right? You could still go in benachat. It's a long day, so try to divide it and do things that are going to help you to go into it b'simcha be'ezrat Hashem. So I give you a bracha that everything should go smooth, you should get everything clean, all the food should get cooked, everything should be 100% the way be'ezrat Hashem wants it to be, but that you willed it to be, and you should be zocheh to Chag Kasher v'sameach with besorot tovot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chag Sameach.
Thank you. Chag Kasher
Thank you.
v'sameach,
Chag
everyone.
Sameach.
Call
Chag
to
Sameach.